At the last second, I'm just really excited about this closing keynote. We've got an amazing brand that I'm looking forward to showing you, and a great partner with Row. Olivia from Row is here, and Eva from Mod. Welcome. How's it going?
Yeah. Great.
Awesome.
Thanks. How are you?
I'm doing great. Thanks so much for joining us today. I'm really looking forward to this session. I need to find out how Eva raised $10 million for your brand. I love the brand. I love the positioning and what you've done in the space. I'm a huge fan. And I'm just so curious to see, like, it has to have been the hardest mountain ever to climb to get those checks. And I'm really looking forward to hearing about the journey from start to finish. With that said, I'm going to pop out of here and I'll let you guys introduce yourself, and I'll just kind of share the screen to show a little bit more about you guys.
Okay. Fantastic. Eva, how are you? Great to chat. Really looking forward to this. We have some really interesting topics to cover today. So let's do a quick round of intros and then dive into it. For everyone, my name is Olivia, and I am the Director of Product Marketing at Row Business Banking. So Row was born out of a pain point, and that pain point is really down to system overload. Today's finance professionals and founders are having to manage their finances across so many different systems. You know, they manage their banking in one place. They might have 2 or 3 different corporate cards, their AP, their FX transfers. All of these are on separate systems. And this causes data sprawl. It causes additional fees, extra time in your day to go through all of these systems. And so what Row does is we enable you to manage all of your spend from one platform via one login, and it has 0 fees attached. So we have corporate cards with high limits and high cash back. We have business banking so that you can open your checking and treasury account and make fee-free payments, ACH wires all around the world. And we have accounts payable, AP system as well, so you can run live AP. The best thing is all of these are integrated. So your data is all integrated together, and it's automated into your accounting. So you can reconcile it with speed and close your books a lot faster. The final piece to this is that there is a human touch. We know that when it comes to managing your money, managing your finances, sometimes you just need to get on a call, speak to a real human. A chatbot, an email won't always suffice. And so every Row client gets a dedicated account manager in order to help you manage your cards, your banking, your AP, all of your finances, and even up to things such as getting capital markets support and growth capital, which I know Eva tapped into definitely throughout the funding. So at the end of the day, we really help businesses save time, save money, no fees, and also grow. We are looking to help businesses grow. And that's why, when I had the chance to do this interview and I was thinking of a high growth company, Maud came straight to mind. So Ava, I'll let you introduce yourself as well.
Well, thank you. And I'm glad to be a partner of Row, which I can explain why in a second. So I'm Eva. I'm the founder and CEO of Mod, which is a modern sexual wellness company based here in New York. We've been around for about 3.5 years, and we take a holistic approach to sexual health. So, we have products for sort of before, during, and after. We've been covered in a ton of press, and I think that we're really leading the way in creating a new sort of generation of sexual wellness brands, and also changing perception around what sexual wellness is and where it fits into people's lives, and then obviously where you buy it, et cetera, and what the retail landscape is doing. So I'm really excited to be here to talk to you about how we raised money and all of the, the mountain that it was to climb, and how we got to 10 million.
Yeah, I mean, a super, super impressive raise that you guys just did. So in today's conversation, we're going to be talking about obviously raising the money, but this includes overcoming some barriers to fundraising. This includes normalizing the conversation around sexual wellness, especially when it comes to speaking with investors about it, and then also building inclusivity into your brand. So can you tell us a little bit about the raise that you just did? You just did your Series A. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Sure. So we just closed our Series A, led by True Beauty Ventures, who they're a team of veterans in the beauty industry. They've been, they've both worked decades with really big high growth brands, and also Fable Investments, which is under Natura & Co., which owns Aesop and The Body Shop, so big names in beauty that have been around for many, many years. We also were invested in by Endeavor, so William Morris Endeavor, and a couple of other partners around the globe. So out of every raise, this was actually the easiest. I've done 4 of them, but this round came together. We did 5.8 million, which was an oversubscribed round, and we closed a couple months ago. So we're really, really proud of the achievement. It's the first sexual wellness company in over 7 years that has raised a Series A.
I mean, it's really unprecedented, the numbers that you have and that you've achieved. So really excited to dive a little bit more into that. And I want to start with a question that, isn't necessarily talked about all the time, and it's a bit taboo, but we're on the topic of taboo here. And that is, the fear around investing. And I think we talked about it on the phone the other day. And I'm sure a lot of founders have this fear when they're going into a new round. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, it's really depending on where you come from and what network you have, et cetera. Fundraising can be really scary, and it can feel really like it can feel very. Sometimes it's nebulous. You don't even know where to start. There's not one roadmap to how to raise money, and so I think for me, it was really about starting from square one and building relationships over a really prolonged period of time and making all of the mistakes that you could possibly make, which I hope I can impart that knowledge on, friends around me who are raising money to not do. And so it's one of those things that I think it's very much, it's about how you educate yourself, who you spend time with, and how you build relationships, and then learning really what the capital is that you need for your business, because that's actually a piece that doesn't get talked about quite often, which is like, how much money do you actually need, and is this a really fundable business?
Right, exactly. And how did you do that? Did you have a mentor that you worked with really closely? How did you build that network? Where did you even start?
So the first thing to note is that I've been in startups for many, many years. I was one of the first employees at Everlane. I was like number 7. Before that, I was at another consumer company. So I was around e-com well before it was really how you sold all products. And that helped in a lot of ways, just seeing the ground floor of a company that has done so well and grown so much. So that's number one. Not everybody can have that experience because they're not as old as I am. But I think in terms of if you have the opportunity to work at a startup at an earlier stage, it's really helpful. The second thing was that I took courses. I did a course at Harvard, and then I also came to New York. I was living in LA at the time, and I came to New York and started building out network and I was in an incubator for the summer. And so just even though at the time it felt like an idea, I was really trying to lay the groundwork so that I could properly raise. I still made a lot of mistakes, but I was at least learning the language. And that was really helpful.
Yeah, I bet. And look, it's a very complex space, and raising that capital to cover inventory, it can be really tricky for a lot of businesses, and educating themselves, getting that right network. I'm really interested to hear about what the landscape looks like for you in terms of finding investors that were diverse themselves. I know that you're one of 90 Latina women to have raised over $1 million in VC funding. Can you talk about when you were actually looking for investors, how that played into who you wanted to invest in Maud?
Yeah, I mean, I knocked on every door, and I think so. Let's just back up for a second, which is like matching the right stage of business with the right investor was, I think, the first big lesson, because I did a pre-seed round, and there are not too many pre-seed especially institutional investors. So I was able to find a great lead, which is X Factor Ventures under Flybridge Capital. And X Factor Ventures is a smaller fund set aside specifically for female founders. And it was there that I met like one of my mentors. So, and that was literally a cold email to X Factor's website to say, this is what I'm doing. And I pitched them. In terms of finding diverse investors, I wasn't necessarily looking for just female founders. Maud is a gender inclusive company. And I wasn't necessarily looking for just founders that looked like me. I was looking for people that could really get behind the business and recognize that this is a global industry that needs to be disrupted. So we ended up, like I said, we had institutional capital then, and then every round thereafter. And at the moment, I would say every round has primarily been led by female whether it's the female investor at the fund or female focused funds.
Mm-hmm.
And our board is primarily female, but there are a lot of older white men at the table. There are a lot of younger people at the table. It's pretty diverse. We have a global cap table. So it's a business for people and it's funded by people.
Exactly. No, and I love that. And that leads to a really interesting point, which is, you're speaking about sex and sexual wellness at the end of the day. And as you said, sometimes it is speaking to male investors about this. And it typically is a taboo conversation. It's not something that everybody feels comfortable talking about even. So how did you even start to approach this conversation? In the early days, how did you start to sort of normalize that conversation?
So I think one thing to note was that I always recognize that these are products that are for a basic thing that all humans do. So I wasn't afraid of the topic. I did not grow up like outward, I don't talk about this part of my life. It's not like you would have been me in high school for being the girl that would go start this company. But I think the point was that I just saw this as very much a part of the personal care umbrella. And so that's how I approached it. And then I do have to sort of give a nod to the fact that I've been married for a long time. I am a bit of an older founder. And so I think that I was able to walk in the room and not, I maybe once out of the hundreds of conversations I've had, has anybody made me feel uncomfortable about the topic. But primarily, I think it was like tennis. Whatever I was sort of giving, I was getting back. And that was very much a professionalism and the ability to talk about this in a very matter-of-fact way. So I didn't find it to be so scary in that sense. I think it was more around just raising capital in general.
Yeah. And I guess at the end of the day, you can't deny the fact that it's a very lucrative industry. And it has a wide demographic of buyers too. I was looking at some of the stats and, by 2020, they predict that the global sexual health industry is expected to reach $125 billion US. And that's something that, no investor can sort of bat an eyelid at. That is at the end of the day, a lucrative business. So what does that look like in terms of the growth for you now that you've raised your Series A? What is that growth trajectory looking like?
Well, I do want to back up and quickly say one thing, which is that we never got told that it was a bad idea. I think people recognize that this was like it makes sense, right? You can find these products in drugstores all around the world, et cetera. I think the other thing to note is the fact that it was really in many, many cases, there were often vice clauses. This also relates to banking, but there were vice clauses that didn't allow for people to invest in mod. So I think as the industry grows and grows up, I think that we'll see more funding. But yeah, so in terms of our own funding and where we are now with the Series A, we had unprecedented growth last year. We could not keep up with demand. In fact, this month was the first time in a year and a half that we were fully stocked with product because we had COVID delays and supply shortages. And so this will allow us to propel tremendous growth, double the business year over year as we've continued to do, and hire a team. We went from 6 to 10 pretty quickly. I don't think we'll go much further than that for the year, but it is really interesting to sort of be like, 4 new people at once, and we were only 6 for a very long time. So I believe in I believe in thoughtful growth. I believe in profitability. Our partners and investors believe in the same thing. So we're not going to go and burn that money. You're probably not going to see a bus ad for mod or anything anytime soon.
No, I won't look out on the buses for the ads. That's great though. And when I look at Maud, it looks very different from a lot of the brands that have sort of preceded it in this space. So when it came to building Maud and building this modern brand that was really revolutionizing the sexual wellness industry, can you speak about how you went about building that and what were some of the explicit choices that you made?
Yeah, I was very much looking at inclusivity. That was always our North Star. Are we creating products that are gender inclusive, that will be evergreen, that can be sort of used by any human, no matter their preference or gender? I think that was just really the basis for why we did and designed everything the way that we did. And we did that in-house. This really came out of my brain and then the team together working on it. I think the second thing was that we looked at the beauty industry and said, where are there common denominators? What do you see in the beauty industry that really resonates and really works? I'm not saying our brown bottles are meant to be like everything else. That was more of choice around how much money do we have when we first launched. But I think the universality of the packaging was really based off of thinking about how does this sit next to beauty and how can it be treated in a different way. So that's very much like where we came from. And it did go through other iterations in the very early days, but we landed here and have been here and are really excited and happy with the brand that we've built.
Yeah, the brand is fantastic. I mean, the website is so beautiful when you go through that site. And you're right, it's very inclusive. You know, it's not pink and hot pink and purple and whatnot. It really is a gender inclusive brand. And how do you build inclusivity into all aspects of your company when it comes to hiring as well, building your team, building your board? Where does inclusivity play into that?
So I think it's interesting with hiring and even building the board, because a lot of that, especially at this early stage, it comes down to often like who you know, and in terms of like who's really great for the job, who's committed to being at Mod, who's excited. And so we've hired people in. Rarely has it been that we put out an ad and we got like a line of people, and that's how we thought about hiring. It's been more through network, which actually brings up a big issue around inclusivity, because you want to make sure that your network is really diverse and interesting. So we're primarily like that our team is primarily female or LGBTQIA. I think there's enough diversity on our team to at least, and then also from all over the country to sort of represent what we believe is our audience. But I think that we can always continue to be questioning, like, are we really speaking on behalf of and for all people? So that's one. And then in terms of just how it comes out as a brand, like our language, we have a very big brand book. This is like where I came from. So it's really looking at speaking in a certain tone and just making sure that we never sort of conflate gender and sex, and we always just treat this like a human thing, and we've stuck to that.
Yeah, well, it definitely is ringing true through what I can see, and I think all brands can continue to push those efforts as well. So it's great to see a brand like Maud who really is taking it upon their shoulders to build inclusivity into it. So I think you guys have really done a great job there.
Thank you.
Of course. Looking at the time, we have a few minutes here. I wanted to just touch on retail. I see that you've just been picked up by some higher end American retailers, Nordstrom, Saks, Bloomingdale's. So what does it look like in terms of your channels? Are you going through an omni-channel approach? What does that look like for you in the future?
Yeah, I mean, from day one, we wanted to be omnichannel because I think really, again, not to use this overused word, but like where the disruption happens is actually way downstream, like at drugstore level, but that will take time. I think for us, it was just always in our DNA to say, we're going to have really affordable products. We're going to, we're really going to make sure that this can sit on the shelf and that there's a complete assortment. So retail has always been in our purview, but I think right now it's about 80-20. It's like 80% D2C, 20% retail. And we have really great partners who are pushing the boundary on sexual wellness. And I think that they are paving the way for the trickle down effect to mass, and then eventually, to beauty mass, and then eventually drug, et cetera. So I'm really excited. I still think there's a lot to do to make sure that sexual wellness is well represented across category and across stores. So we're trying.
Yeah, well, no, it's a good start. It's a great start, in fact. And you were mentioning that you're fully stocked, which is really exciting. You obviously have Series A, which is great. We have Black Friday, Cyber Monday coming up. How have you prepared for that? And how do you get your, not only your business ready, but also your finances ready ahead of the Black Friday, Cyber Monday push?
So we rarely do sales. So we actually don't do any sales on Black Friday. We believe like you really should, sexual wellness should be a part of your life all year round. Obviously we see very big spikes around Valentine's Day and the holidays, but we're pretty evergreen in that way, to go back to that word. And, we just think about sort of what can we be doing all year to be making people more comfortable with sexual health. That said, Cyber Monday, we typically donate all of our profit to a organization that I'm on the board of, which is called Peer Health Exchange. And they basically have used the peer-to-peer health model to get education into underserved schools around sexual health, mental health, and substance abuse. So that's what our Cyber Monday looks like. And every year we're really excited to support them.
Wow, that is very cool. I love that. Giving back is always important, and especially when it means something to you. So that's fantastic. And I think a lot of brands are also taking a similar approach now and not doing the Black Friday, Cyber Monday sales, but actually doing a more holistic throughout the year evergreen approach, particularly as so much shopping now is done online. And we saw that even more so, obviously, with COVID. Everybody
Yes.
had to go online. That was the only solution for many brands. Well, that's fantastic. I want to see if there's any questions. Derek, were there any questions that came in?
We haven't pulled any questions from the audience just yet, but if you do have questions, everybody do put them in chat right now. You guys should know there's about a 10 to 15 second delay on there, so it might take a second here. But yeah, that was absolutely amazing, and I absolutely love pioneering what has been a taboo topic, and hearing that there's been good feedback from the investor community and respect around this, I think is really important, because I could have easily expected it to go the other way from what I've heard stories in Silicon Valley and fundraising. So it's really great, means a lot to me that we that you're treated with respect going through those races.
Yes. I mean, it's not, I wouldn't say that it's like easy, but I would say that we're definitely making headway. So we're excited. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Awesome. Well, part of our goal at eCommerce Tech, and something we're doing in the next few months when we launch our nonprofit, which will be called eCommerce for All, is it's all about empowering, especially in gender diversity, and making sure that we have a way to at first acknowledge the gap that has existed for a very long time, since maybe the dawn of civilization, inequality between men and women, and what can be done today, actively done today. Especially, I would say men have a very important role in this, to close that gap and empower women to take on entrepreneurship in e-commerce, because not everybody gets the same opportunities. And as a man, I know that it's easy for another man to overlook what they are gifted by their gender in some cases, and so I work very hard to push this kind of this, I don't know, solving the problem, just bringing awareness to this, and then helping female founders lead the way and pioneer their business. So that's just our blurb from eCommerce Tech. Really looking forward to getting our grant up and running, and we'll be giving out grants to female-led companies in the near future. So
amazing.
Awesome. All right. Well, thank you both for joining us today.
Thank you so much.
That really means a lot, and it's amazing to see, Eva, what you've done. So thank you for joining us.
Yes. Thanks, Derek, and thanks, Olivia.
Of course. Nice chatting.
Talk soon.
Talk to you guys
Bye.
later. With that, we are done for this 2-day event. Thank you, everybody that's here still watching. Really passionate way to end this, but very important. And I think it was, this really ties together the entire event. We talked a lot about cause marketing and giving back. We talked a lot about tools for growth and monitoring our operations, improving our video ad campaigns, and all of that. All this is worthless if you don't care about the causes that you're supporting and the way that your brand is making a positive impact in the world. So I hope to see you guys again at another eCommerce Tech event, maybe even at our live event in May in 2022 in Los Angeles. It's been a pleasure hosting this for you, and I will see you guys next time. Thanks. Goodbye.